Hey guys, it's Terry from White Oaks Bison Farm here in Indiana. So today what we're going to be attempting to do is rotate our animals through the pasture. So about 2 weeks ago, we decided that we were going to wean the calves from the mothers. So we knew spring was coming on. We wanted to get these calves separated. We wanted to give those mothers time, an opportunity to allow them to recover from the stress of having a calf with them. And make sure that their body's getting the nutrients that they needed coming into springtime here as we're preparing to have some red dogs. So what a red dog in the bison industry means is it's a young calf. So where that comes from is when they are born, the calves are typically a light maroon reddish color. They will stay this color for the next 4 to 5 months. After that, you'll start to see the wool change to the typical brown color that you see with bison. We always feel it's best to have someone with you when we're rotating the bison from one pasture to the next, or for just moving them from one area to another. The danger that comes along with these animals is something that we would take serious. How fast they are, how strong they are, and how determined bison can be when they want to go from one area to another. Today I've got my youngest son, Riker, coming along with me to help rotate the bison. Riker is the 5th generation to the ground that we have here at the farm. Being a first-generation farm and bison producer here in Indiana has definitely had its challenges, but it's also had a lot of rewards for our farm and our family in just the 4 short years that we've got started. The weather condition in Indiana the last 3 to 4 weeks has been extremely cold and a lot of snow. As you can see, there's still a lot of snow in a few of the pastures that we've got. This is a long, cold winter that we haven't had in a long time. We're hoping that's going to benefit every farm, including ours here in Indiana, with parasites, bugs, and other things that we may not want with our animals or in our pastures. A few weeks ago, when we separated the cows from the calves and brought the calves up to the front, we also separated off our breeding bulls, Canuck and Denali. We also have 2 other bulls that we are definitely keeping a close eye on, as they are showing great potential in growth that we may keep back for breeding bulls, or we might be able to sell one off at a later time. Riker and I's thinking is that if we can push the calves out of the hay lot here and up into pasture 1 that we're coming into now, that the calves will follow us, or we can use the range cubes to convince them to come over. We'll see how this comes along. So it's just a few shakes of the range cube bucket. It didn't take long, and these calves were coming into the pasture that we were in. That'd give Riker enough time to go down the fence row and shut the gate before the calves figured out it was too late to go back to the pasture they just came from. So we had a little bit of change in process. Riker and I decided that we wanted to, boy, that's a good looking bull calf, wanted to make sure that we can do this effectively, and we decided that we wanted to try to keep the cows all up here and also the calves. So here you can see is our calves from last year. Calves. So what we're going to do, we're going to try to bring these guys up here, keep them up here, and yet have our cows just be in the pasture just to the south of here. So we'll see how this goes. See Riker over here has got gates held for us, so nice little crowd there. breeding bulls over here on this side. And now we have calves here on this side. So what we're going to try to do is bring those cows up in this area here to see how they're going to do in the hayloft. As you can see here in Indiana, the snow is starting to melt off and hopefully spring is on its way. So, but with that comes a lot of water, a lot of mud. What we're going to try to do is preserve our pastures as much as we can and making sure that they're ready for springtime. Moving bison through gates, it's always best to have the gate facing the direction that you want the animals to come through. So this example, we're bringing the bison into this pasture, so we want to have the gates facing this direction. That way they don't get stuck behind the gates as they're starting to attempt to come through. Stay on the snow as much as possible to keep from damaging the grass in the pastures at this time. As we were traveling south on our property and get closer to the wood line, this is also a higher elevation area. We noticed there was more snow and not near as much water in the pasture. As you can see back here in the back of our pastures, there's a lot of snow still standing back here. It's a little more protection with the tree line, so the sun doesn't get a chance to hit the pastures as much. Alright guys, so what we've decided, as you can see back here in the very back of our property, in our very back pastures, there's still a lot of snow and a lot of ground protection that will help from damaging the pasture. So I think what we're going to do is we're just going to move the bison to this very back pasture, keep them into this area here for a little bit. The whole reason for wanting to move them back up to the front like we originally had started was because we did not want them damaging the pasture. You've seen how wet and muddy they were as we were coming back here to this area. But with this much snow cover, we feel like it's really going to protect that topsoil and those grass roots that are just slightly down under the snow here. So we'll keep the bison back here in this area here for 3 or 4 days until this melts off, and then we'll rotate them back up to the front. And hopefully by then some of the ground will absorb that water so the bison don't damage our pastures prior to springtime. We really want them to be thriving. So what we'll do is we'll go ahead and open up the lane here. We're going to move. Anytime the bison know that they're about to be moved into new pastures, they get excited. And as you can see, there's not near as much snow in that area. So as they're moving around like that, we don't want them damaging those pastures and that topsoil and disturbing it no more than what we have to. So what we'll do is we'll run them down this lane here, and we'll rotate them into this very back pasture. You can see there's still a lot of snow, and we'll protect the topsoil and also the grass and keep them from damaging the pasture. All right, guys, so now we're getting ready to open the gate, but as you can see, as we're coming down to the lane here and up to this pasture the bison are currently in, they are ready to move. So they like coming out of one pasture into the next, and most of these females here are pregnant, and we're expecting calves with them. So there's definitely a lot of hormones, a lot of movement going on amongst them. So just a few moments later, after the first cow had laid down and wallowed in this area, the second one did as well, but she was facing the opposite direction. And then at the end, you can see her scratching her chin in the snow, almost like she was creating the head of the angel. When we were done, we drove over to this area and we couldn't believe it. It did look like a snow angel. This is old Shelly. She's the oldest cow we have in the herd. She's a 6-year-old cow that comes from Lyman, Wyoming. And she's also the first cow every year to have a calf for us. She breeds back every year, and those are great genetics to have when you have livestock, especially bison. If you remember a couple videos back, she broke her other horn off, pushing and fighting with another cow that we had just purchased and released into the herd. Shelly lost her other side the year before, fighting and trying to maintain her dominance within the herd and being the head cow. When I talk about the horns breaking off, it's actually not the horn itself, it's the cap that covers the outside of the horn. I like to explain to people that the horn cap of a bison is very similar to like your fingernail. And with a lot of pressure in the right angle and the right time, that nail or that horn cap will come off. It typically does grow back, but it's usually not in the same form or ever catch up to the side that it's still existing that's originally on the bison. So unfortunately, they don't grow this back in a quick time. It typically takes 3 to 4 years before that horn cap grows back to the length that it was at the time it broke off. With her having both sides now broke off, she's going to be at a disadvantage when it comes to fighting and pushing with other cows. Hopefully this doesn't affect her dominance within the herd, but I'm afraid it will in time. So what I'm doing now, guys, is I'm putting this gate across the alleyway. I'll use the Ranger to cover the other side and block the bulls from being able to get past me, as we hope they go from pasture 8 into pasture 6 here to our right. All right, guys, what we decided to do is go ahead and move our bulls from the pasture they were in to eliminate some of the stress on the pasture and the grasses at this time to this pasture here where they have not been in or the cows have been in. So how our gates are set up here is that we're going to bring the bulls down the lane and see if we can't deter them to go into this pasture right here, where they'll spend the next couple days as well. So we'll see how this goes. We've not tried moving the bulls this direction or into this pasture, rotating this way. So hopefully it goes well. Do you want to go up and let them out, son, and me stay back here? Okay. You have your phone? So Wrecker's agreed to go up and stay with the gate to open the pasture. While he's up there waiting for me to get back down here to my position, I'll then call him and let him know that I've got the alleyway secured and blocked off. That way he can open up the gate and we can start bringing the bulls back down to where they should be going into pasture 6 for us. This was the last move we had to get done for the day. So now we have the bulls settled in their pasture and they look pretty content. Next we gotta get some round bales. I was hoping to have this done before dark, but I don't think that's gonna happen. In the past, we've not rolled out any round bales across our pastures just because it is a controversial topic when feeding animals. Things you got to be considerate of is weeds, waste, and the mud that comes along with it sometimes if there's not much ground cover, if the ground's not frozen. But this year we've had that cold winter and we've had the ground frozen, so we decided to start rolling out round bales. We'll see how this helps or hurts our pastures as we move into the spring with organic matter and maybe helping them with some soil fertility to bring in some of those grasses that haven't come in the past. So we'll see how this works out for us. If this is something that you do or if you've had experience with, good or bad, please leave us a comment. We'd be interested in hearing from you. Well, guys, that was the last thing we had to get done before we called it a night. We'll give this little bit of hay here to Gus, and then we'll park the tractor. But thanks again for watching, and keep up with the herd. Make sure you like and follow our page.